Now, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, that's Ipid in short, its report into the circumstances leading to the murder of Lieutenant-Colonel Charl Kinnear has been sent to Police Minister Bheki Cele. Now, the report calls for some senior members in the police to be held accountable for the withdrawal of Kinnear's security before he was gunned down in September of 2020. Let's get more on this now, and we speak to Charl Kinnear's wife, Nicolette, who talks to us from Cape Town. Mrs. Kinnear, thank you very much for your time. Let me start by asking whether you have caught sight of that report. If you have, what stands out for you?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Yes, I have indeed had or seen the report. There are many things that caught my attention, my eye, and if you allow me, I'll actually read something.
Please go ahead.
The assassination of the late Lieutenant-Colonel Kinnear was both tragic and unfortunate and should not have happened. If the members mentioned and implicated in this report simply executed their core functions, roles and responsibility as mandated by the Constitution, these members have dropped the proverbial ball and must therefore individually and collectively take responsibility for the death of their colleague. And that pretty much says it all.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, therefore, a follow-up in regard to that, because the report calls for them to be held accountable. And so this is the point where I ask you whether you feel that you should name and shame them right here and right now.
Look, let us firstly start by, there was a report that was, or what is now referred to as a prelim report, which was released or actually leaked to the media in November. That report was signed off in September by Ipid and then handed over to the then National Commissioner and the Minister as well. In there, Ipid clearly says that we are handing over this prelim report as there are members that is mentioned in here, or that we have found following our investigation, that we know are either going on retirement or they're nearing retirement age. Hence why Ipid took the time to, knowing that the final report might only come out in this year, to hand in a prelim report so that SAPS could take it up and start dealing with certain procedures that needed to be done. Today, we are 7-8 months since that prelim report, and we know that nothing was done. So in actual fact, SAPS did not take up those recommendations. They did not follow up and see that disciplinary procedures and stuff are done and served on to members that actually went into retirement or that left SAPS willingly. So I'm stuck now with, and if we go through the report, with so many members that should be held accountable and that should take some form of responsibility for the death of my husband that has left SAPS. So where does that leave us now as a family? I've also previously raised these concerns and questions with the Portfolio Committee because I exactly saw this happening, that this was going to pan out, that members are going to leave and we're not going to have answers. In the report itself, a lot of questions was posed to the now previous National Commissioner General Sithole, who we also know Ipid actually opened up criminal charges against him. He left his seat now without answering as to, General, why did you in National Commissioner capacity not do anything when the guarding was removed? Why did you not do anything to make sure that this member was kept safe? What did you do to the different entities or units that were supposed to see to his assessment and keep him safe? Nothing.
Yeah.
So the Ipid report or the Ipid's investigation was not only tossed with finding out why the guarding was removed in 2019. There were various aspects. The guarding of 2019 was but one, and then obviously the lead up and build up to the actual assassination was another that they had to look into, yeah, and which obviously they're giving answers to now.
And with the anger in your voice that is clearly audible, Mrs. Kinnear, I guess it goes without saying that the next logical question becomes, what does justice look like to you when things are as they are right now, given that members of the police, senior members of the police who took such a decision are being allowed to go and retire comfortably?
Exactly. It leaves me, I'm fuming because it's like playing Monopoly, or some people were playing Monopoly and some were given a get out of jail free card here. Because we know that there are criminal charges and we know that there are departmental charges. If you are pretty much not in a company, the company can't charge you departmentally anymore. And I'm left with the thought that were certain things deliberately not done in order to allow people that get out of jail free card, if we could call it that. And those are the answers. And unfortunately now, the new National Commissioner has now inherited this hot potato, and he needs to give answers. But I need to find I need those answers, be it from the National Commissioner, be it from the Minister himself, be it from the President himself. Somebody needs to tell me why these people were not held accountable. Bottom line is, and I'm extremely disturbed if I read the report, for example. The provincial commander, if I could call him that, of crime intelligence was very reluctant in answering questions when questioned by the task team. He in turn, instead of giving an answer, listen, why did your unit not pursue in getting the risk assessment done? He decided to answer by saying that he feels that why did my husband's death get the blow-up and attention that it did? And a day prior to that, another member was also killed. And so he's trying to turn this into a whole racial thing. And I am perturbed by that, that my loss, my son's grief, that other family who lost their dad the day prior to my husband's, that has been turned into a racial thing. My husband's death simply got the attention that it did because of the circumstances leading up to his death.
Yeah.
The fact that management knew, people within crime intelligence and even higher up knew. General, you knew what was happening and you did nothing. It had nothing to do with the color of my skin or my husband's skin. My plight and plea has always been for all officers, doesn't matter race, color, or creed. If you should be in the position, the dire position that we as a family were left in, that you deserve to get support from your employer. You deserve as a family to be protected. So I'm disgusted at the fact that this is trying to be turned into a racial issue because my husband's death maybe had a bigger reaction from public than another member a day prior. And I'm not even going to entertain that stance, because all we needed was answers. Because the reality is that had things been done correctly in 2019, had an assessment been done in 2019, had things been put in place in 2019, my husband would not have been killed in 2020. And that is what we are facing at the moment.
Mrs. Kinnear, you'll forgive me for asking this question. In fact, I'm going to club it in two questions, but ask you both at the same time because of time constraints. Firstly, do you have the means to sue the state for the manner in which your husband died? Because, as you say, it's as if things were done in order to allow for your husband to be killed. Because then, if you don't have the means to sue the state, it's a question of basically resources. You have this behemoth that is the police department that can basically defend itself all the way to the Constitutional Court. But you, as a citizen of the country, you may not have the means, the money to do that. But second of all, talk to us about whether you have had a justification for why security was removed around you and your sons.
To answer your first question, it's exactly what you say, and I've often mentioned that, and being bullied, okay, because you know that you have, or another party has a power or a stronger power or authority above you. That is pretty much how I feel. Obviously, the report has just come out. I've always had my suspicions in terms of what I think might have happened, etc., but I can't work on suspicions. At this stage, this whole thing, as you can imagine, being slapped with a report such as this, a suspicion is one thing, but now having to face the facts, the hardcore facts, as stipulated within the Ipid report, that indeed, and as they say, my husband's death should have been prevented. It should never have happened. And it was allowed to happen because of people not doing their job. And I haven't had any time to process that. So, and as you say, am I going to be by the means to take on an organization as large as SAPS for grossly failing me, failing my husband, and ultimately something leading that ended up him being buried? What am I going to do? I haven't given it a thought. I have to. In terms of our security, same thing. We've been bullied and shoved and pushed, and I never know what's going to happen the next day. What is who going to spring at me again? And I've said it before, that I am in no means, or by no means, the only widow. My husband is by no means the only police officer in the country, in the Western Cape, that was killed. However, what makes our situation unique and rather colorful is the reason why. We all know my husband was investigating, yes, criminal element, but corruption within. So my reality is that I'm facing an enemy from the outside and an enemy from within. And that's what I have to deal with.
It's a tough one. And I can only say I'm very sorry for what is happening to you. But we're going to have to leave the conversation there. Nicolette Kinnear is the widow of the late Lieutenant-Colonel Charl Kinnear. Thank you very much for your time.